Okay, we'll go ahead and call this Tooele City Planning Commission meeting to order this Wednesday, October 9th, 2024 at the hour of 7 p.m. here in City Council chambers. The first item on our agenda tonight is our Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 2 on our agenda tonight is our roll call. Commissioner Hammer?
Here.
Commissioner Proctor? Here. Commissioner Sloan? Here. Commissioner Robinson?
Here.
Commissioner Jensen? Here. Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
I am Chairman Hamilton. I am also here. Let's please excuse Commissioners Dunn and John. He's too busy playing with hats. I know. We'll recognize Council Members Hanson and Ms. Manzione. Staff members Mr. Hall, Mr. Agard, and Mr. Hanson are joining us tonight. Number 3 on our agenda tonight is a public hearing and recommendation. This is a proposed amendments to Tooele City Code 7-4-9, parking lots, Tooele City Code 7-16-4, Table 2, Table of Development Standards, and Tooele City Code 7-19-26, park strip landscaping in commercial and industrial subdivisions regarding landscaping requirements in the industrial zoning district.
Say that 3 times.
I know, that was a mouthful right there. Mr. Agard.
Just a second here to bring up the slide. Let's talk about that. Is that did I get the wrong packet? Is that not right? Like, that's wrong. I turned it off then.
No, City Council turned that down last week.
Okay. What's its problem?
Okay.
Sorry. Our 20-year-old technology is finally biting the dust. I don't know what the whole system is.
Okay, now you can hear me. So at the behest of city administration and members of the city council, I was asked to consider some changes to the city's code in regards to landscaping in the industrial areas. And I have the wrong presentation. I apologize. Okay, now I got the right presentation. So the proposed amendment will affect the industrial areas that are highlighted in red on the screen. So we have the industrial area that is the Peterson-Ninigret Industrial Depot, which is the area south of Utah Avenue and west of the railroad. And then we have a small pocket of industrial zoning located north of 1000 North. Those are the Bolander properties. The proposed amendment will impact 3 ordinances in Tooele City Code. These are the ordinances that govern landscaping standards, particularly in the industrial zones. The first one will be 7-4-9, which is automobile parking, particularly parking lots. The second will be 7-16-4, which is Table of Development Standards. And then 7-19-26, park strip landscaping in commercial and industrial subdivisions. So first of all, I'll just go through what the ordinance requires, and then we'll go through the proposed changes. In 7-4-9 parking lots, there's a requirement that all parking row end caps and all parking landscape islands have one tree along with an irrigation system. And then there's also a requirement that parking islands that run the length of a parking row shall have one tree for every 4 adjacent parking stalls. The proposed changes to this code would be to eliminate the tree requirements from parking row end caps, eliminate the landscape island requirement from all parking lots, and then eliminate landscaping and tree requirements from landscape islands that run the length of a row of parking. I should note that this ordinance does not propose to eliminate the landscape end caps, just the landscape islands. The current requirements in 7-19-26, which is our subdivision ordinance, affects all commercial and industrial lots. It requires park strips to be landscaped with appropriate non-sod ground covers, trees and shrubs with necessary irrigation systems. And the proposed changes would only affect, the title in this would include the landscape or the light industrial and the industrial service zones, and would eliminate park strip landscaping requirements for lots in the industrial subdivisions. We also would like to add a requirement that all disturbed areas shall be reclaimed with a native seed mixture, and then requires that a submission of a disturbed area reclamation plan be submitted at time of site plan review. And I can explain that a little in more detail at the end of the presentation. The current requirement, as found in 7-16-4, Table 2, which is our table of development standards for industrial and commercial zones, this requires 15 feet of front yard landscaping, requires critical area landscaping plus 1%, and the code also provides for financial waivers of 1% landscaping requirement and a financial waiver of critical area landscaping requirement. So what that means is currently the code already has language in there that would permit properties in the industrial zone to be waived from their landscaping requirement if they pay a fee to the city. The code states that the fee is $20,000 per acre. However, when you do the math, you find that the fee is actually closer to $200 per acre. For example, 1 acre is 43,560 square feet. 1% is 435 square feet of landscaping. 1% of $20,000 is $200. The fee is actually $200 per acre. But they can pay that fee and have their landscaping requirements waived. The city then uses that money to improve parks or other city landscaping in other locations. So the code already has the language in there that provides the waiver of landscaping. And then there's also the financial waiver of a critical area. So the critical areas in an industrial zone would be areas such as project entrance, employee break areas, stormwater detention basins, and so forth. And then for a critical area, the landscaping payment in lieu of would be $200 per acre as well. The main difference in the financial waiver between the 1% waiver and the critical area waiver is the code states that financial or budgetary difficulties shall not be considered grounds for a determination of impossibility or impracticability for payment of a critical area requirement mitigation sum. So there has to be some other reason for them to request the waiver from the critical area landscaping. It just can't be, we don't want to pay for it. It has to be some kind of an engineering issue or an issue related to the soil itself. But it is in there. And then the changes we're proposing to eliminate the 15-foot front yard landscaping requirement, and then require that all disturbed areas shall be reclaimed with native seed mixture, and require the submission of a disturbed area reclamation plan at the time of site plan review. So why the requirement for a disturbed area reclamation plan? So I went out a few weeks ago, and this is a project in Tooele City that's currently under construction. And I thought this picture was quite informative. It shows what happens when you disturb the soils. On the left-hand side, you have native Great Basin wild rye grass. On the right-hand side, you have areas that have been disturbed with graders and so forth that are proliferating with Russian thistle, which is also commonly known as tumbleweed. So my concern is if we eliminate the landscaping requirements, we need to have something in place that will prevent what we're seeing in this picture, because the non-native species, for some reason, the seeds and the spores germinate when the soil is disturbed. However, when you have native grasses and things, it helps control those noxious weeds. And here's another illustration of that, looking to the north. The benefits of reclaiming disturbed sites: native grasses and shrub root systems hold the soil and prevent water and wind, or I should say reduce water and wind erosion. Native plants help stormwater management by absorbing stormwater, and the native plants help prevent the germination, growth, and proliferation of noxious weeds. So those are the changes that I'm proposing to the code to eliminate or reduce the landscaping requirements in the industrial zoning districts. These will only affect the industrial zone. It will not affect the light industrial or the industrial service or any of our commercial zones. So that's what's being proposed, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them for you.
All right, let's bring this back to the commission for questions or comments for staff.
Just a quick one.
Yes, Commissioner Sloan.
Is that 1% number a statutory number, or by statutory I mean above our pay grade at the city? I mean, has the legislature, for example, decided that 1% is the number? It just seems to me like a lot of these places are going to write a check rather than.
Are you referring to the state legislature? I'm not aware of them having any limiting requirements on landscaping.
You never can tell.
Yeah,
But,
that's one I'm not aware of.
It just seemed like that's especially for an industrial lot, that seems like a fairly nominal fee to pay to get out of landscaping.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Okay, this one does require a public hearing, so I'll go ahead and open the public hearing to this particular item. If you'd like to speak to this, please approach the podium, state your name for the record, and write your name for the record. All right, seeing no one approach, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Bring this back to the commission for any other further questions or comments. All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Proctor.
I move we forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for landscaping requirements in the industrial zoning district's request by Tooele City for the purpose of revising city codes regarding minimum landscaping requirements for park strips, interior landscaping, and landscaping parking lots for all properties zoned industrial.
All right, I've got a positive recommendation from Commissioner Proctor. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Sloan. Commissioner Hammer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
I am Chairman Hamilton. I also vote aye. That one passes with a positive recommendation going up to City Council as 7-0. Number 4 on our agenda tonight is a public hearing and a decision. This is application number 2024-050, a request by Jake Tate for conditional use permit approval to allow the installation of a 110-foot monopole communication tower on property located at 1148 West, 60 South in the LI Light Industrial Zoning District. Mr. Hall.
Thank you. I just forgot that I was going to be doing this from here as well. Sorry. This is, as you said, a conditional use permit hearing. The question is for a 110-foot monopole tower. For starters, 75 feet and under are permitted uses in these zones. This is light industrial zoning, as you said. Just quickly, this is the property right here in the corner of the property. Right in this area is where the monopole would go. But in this light industrial zone, it would be a permitted use, except they would like to go taller than the 75 feet that's allowed. That makes it a conditional use permit. This is on a Christensen and Griffith property. Mr. Tate, I believe, is the engineer. This is, just going to quickly show you the site. You can see that entrance over here that lines up with an entrance that's on the property. That's harder to see here in this aerial, but there's an entrance that's been made here that lines up there, accesses the property and allows them to use that little corner. They are planning to gate that, fence it. It's already gated. Access to the whole site is gated, so it's fairly secure. Then the site itself would be fenced in and gated as well. For that monopole tower, we don't allow pegs under 20 feet, so it's hard to get up to. They've saved space for equipment that doesn't violate our rules for how much equipment you can have, how much square footage that can take up. We do require the 6-foot fence. They've suggested an 8-foot fence will be used. They have this gravel area to come out of the site as well. And you can see, if you look closely, that gate right there that allows access to the site. There are a lot of different considerations that are in your report, things that we look at for all these kind of poles, whether stealth is necessary, things like that. None of those things really come to bear on this project in this industrial area. The visual impacts are not going to be an issue. It's located about 1,300, it's over 1,300 feet away from the nearest actual dwelling and 872 feet from the nearest residential zone. So we're quite a ways away from any real impact visually to anybody. And we are recommending approval with those 6 conditions that kind of take care of the issues that we would have. The site planning is being done right now as part of a building permit application. So we have fire and public works and engineering looking at it without much issue so far. If those things can all be satisfied with these 6 conditions, we have no reason to recommend anything but approval. So, you have any questions for staff at this point tonight?
Let's bring it back to the commission for questions or comments for staff. I think you answered one by telling me the closeness of any buildings or anything else. That was the only one I had, so.
Actually, can you repeat the distance from the residential?
It's 872 feet from the nearest residential zoning line, but 1,300 and some odd, I forget exactly how far, over 1,300 feet from the nearest residential building. There's some empty residential land there on some big lots. It's our R1 zoning, so there's fairly big lots there.
Yes, Commissioner Jensen.
I noticed in there, in the packet, we talked about co-locating and stuff, which is a good idea, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not real up on the cell phone industry. 15 years ago, I actually used to build cell sites.
Sure.
And I know they can get kind of tight with buildings and pads with outdoor equipment.
They can.
And I just wonder if the square footage, my question is that the maximum square footage that they can have in there is that amendable at some point? Or?
Well, under our code, the square footage is not amendable, but the 450 square feet that we allow, as things have progressed, the equipment gets smaller and smaller.
So they don't
The
need
for auxiliary.
extra.
There's enough space on the site that they won't need to go over the 450 that we
Okay.
require.
So I
that
just
we
remember
allow.
when I used to do it, there were just like 4 buildings in that tight area,
It's a lot-
4
it's a
different
lot less
carriers.
equipment now.
Okay,
Lots
that
less
was my
equipment
question.
now.
I just didn't want to stick them to where they couldn't fit something else.
It's a good question.
Absolutely. Great questions. Any other questions or comments from the commission? All right, this one also does require a public hearing. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this particular item. Once again, if you'd please approach the podium, state your name for the record. Seeing no one approach, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this item and bring it back to the commission for any other further questions or comments. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the request for a conditional use permit application 2024-050 to allow the installment of a 110-foot high monopole tower on the property located at 1148 West 60 South, based on the findings and subject to the 6 conditions listed in the staff report dated 4th October 2024.
I got a motion to approve from Commissioner Robinson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Hammer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor? Aye. Commissioner Sloan? Aye. Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
I am Chairman Hamilton. I also vote aye. That one passes and approves with a 7-0 vote. Moves us on to number 5 on our agenda tonight is our city council reports.
Thanks, and I guess I'll stay here because this microphone works. And it is a much better height for me, yes. Okay, I don't have very much tonight. A couple things that might be of interest to you. At the last city council meeting, we had the land use amendment request that was on 300 East and 1000 North to change from medium density to high density residential, and we did not approve that based on a lot of discussion that we had as far as traffic and water and what was going to be there and connectivity, so that was not approved. And then we did approve an agreement with Cache Valley Electric to install another traffic signal at 1000 North and 520 East, if that's of interest to you. And that's about probably it. Unless you have any questions.
Yes, thank you. Any questions for council?
Just comment, thank you for the light.
Thank you for the light. Yeah, I think it will be good.
Thank you for giving me another reason to stay on the south end of town. All right, thank you. Appreciate those reports.
Thank you all.
Moves us on to number 6 on our agenda is a review and decision. This is the minutes of the Planning Commission held on September 25th, 2024. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move we approve the minutes.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Jensen. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And a second from a couple. We'll give it to Commissioner Robinson. Commissioner Hammer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
I am Chairman Hamilton. I also vote aye. Those pass 7-0. Moves us on to number 7 on our agenda tonight, and I'll entertain a motion.
That we adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. We are adjourned.